13 days from the anniversary. Don't waste your time and prep these EZA units now. How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at all of the units that will be EZAing during the 9th anniversary and talk about what you can do to sort of prep them up, get them link leveled, get them ready for the 9th anniversary, of course, assuming you have these units, right? Nothing worse than entering into the 9th anniversary, hitting up those EZAs, and not having the unit ready, especially if it's a sub EZA unit. Can't tell you how many times that's happened to me with, EZAs that have dropped throughout the year. So you want to make sure these characters are link leveled, take advantage of the new link leveling stages, and prepped and ready to go. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to hop into the first of the EZAs to come during the celebration, and that is the STR UI Goku. This guy will be dropping during the countdown celebration, so in about 9 days from now, we should be seeing his release. Hopefully you guys have this guy. He's been freely available on like legendary Goku ticket summons, or has been around for a minute or two. He was featured on several different step-up banners. Most of you may have a copy or two of him, and if you don't worry, he is featured on Gogeta's banner. But let's talk about what he's doing once he's EZA'd, right? So upon EZA, his super attack, 12 key super attack, raises attack and defense for 1 turn, disables enemy's guard, causes colossal damage to the enemy, and greatly lowers defense. His 18 key will now greatly raise attack for the turn, disable enemy's guard, cause make colossal damage, and raise allies' attack for 50% for the turn. He will have 177% attack and defense, key 4, great chance of evading enemies' attacks. That is a 70% chance for 7 turns from the start of turn. And he has a high chance of evading enemies' attacks from the 8th turn onward. He has an additional chance of evading enemies' attacks 7% before receiving an attack. Right, so 77% before receiving attack per reps of Universe 7 ally attacking in the same turn. So he can get up to an additional 21% there. So from 70%, that can put him up to about 90%. And, that assumes you're lucky enough to actually proc that. Or actually, correction, self-excluded, so actually it's only 84%. He also has an additional defense 77 for the rest of battle after evading that attack. He has an additional attack 77% for the rest of battle after evading an attack as the first attacker in a turn, and an additional key 1 up to 7 and attack defense chance to perform a critical hit 11% up to 77 with each attack evaded. So basically, he's doing what he did before, building upon dodging, but just doing it a little bit better now. He's still a bit squishy compared to his AGL counterpart once he EZAs, but he can get the job done as a dodge tank, right? 84% chance to dodge before attacking. Pretty darn good. I mean, but of course, dodge is dodge, and it is a chance nonetheless, so be aware of that. So you don't want to find yourselves being caught without picking him up. Remember, as I said in our super attack farming guide, he actually starts as a God Goku, so you can farm his super attack from the Battle of Gods story event. And of course, we went over how to collect up all of his medals during our banner prep video. So if you want to know exactly what to do for the medals, make sure you head on over to that video where I explain in detail what stages to go to prep them. As far as link leveling goes, right, if we head on over to Dokkan info here and we go to the events, we can actually see that in the quest mode on global here, we are actually up to stage 38.8, and you can see that pretty much the best link level stage if you want to be prepping link levels. This applies to all the characters I'm going to go to are 34.8 and 34-4 because they are both the two highest link leveling rate stages with the most amount of fights. Now I'll have a separate video in a few days going over in detail the link level up stages, but just know that if you're working on these guys, hop into one of these two stages as well. If you're using your boost, I recommend using your boost on stage 7 since it is the highest stage. It almost guarantees a level up during that one. So moving on, right? So that's just the first EZA of the celebration, right? And that'll happen during the countdown. From them, we will get the, let's see, right here, the new life on planet Vampa, Broly, Chile, and Limo. They are the Part 1 LR EZA, and they will be getting their Extreme Z Awakening during this time as well. Remember, this guy does start as a base Broly, so you can grind his super tech out from the Dragon Ball Super Broly events. Now, you can't grind any medals out for this guys other than to awaken them to the LR. There's no EZA medals you can prep right now since he will have his own EZA stage. Now, let's talk about what he's doing. So upon EZA, right, on the 12 key, they are now greatly raising attack and defense for 1 turn, causing colossal damage and greatly lowering attack. On their 18 key, they will massively raise attack and defense for 1 turn, causing colossal damage to the enemy. Now, their passive will have attack and defense 30% per key sphere obtained, an additional 10% per Fizz key sphere obtained, and an additional key 2 per key sphere obtained. They give all allies key 2 and attack 39% with AGL or STR key spheres obtained, and all allies key 2 defense 39% with Tech or Int key spheres obtained. They also give all allies key 2 and attack defense 15% with a Rainbow key sphere obtained. They have an additional attack 39% when performing a super attack. They also launch an additional super attack, and movie bosses or super bosses allies have reduced damage received when key is 24. They have a high chance of evading enemies attack and evading enemies attack guaranteed with 7 or more key spheres obtained. They randomly change key spheres of certain type to Fizz when 60% or less, and changes all key spheres to Fizz when 39% or less. So basically, they're orb changers. They're a bit of a nuker, not a major nuker, but enough to survive, especially with that base 50% chance to dodge, right? And of course, if you can manage to get the 7 key spheres, which is pretty easy to do with their Fizz orb changing. Now all the orb changers on Super Boss's team, it's actually going to be very easy to keep up their 7 orbs, which makes them an excellent support unit. They are basically untouchable while also buffing your team in both damage reduction and attack and defense. They are all around a great unit to have on the Super Boss's team, whether you're rolling with Broly's variant or Rosé's variant. They are an excellent addition to the team. Like I said, there isn't much else you can do for them other than to begin grinding out that super attack from the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie and grinding out their medals, which again, I do have a separate video explaining all of that, but it's mostly just all of the Dragon Ball Super Broly events, right? So the Gogeta event, Dokkan event, the Broly Dokkan event, you'll take those down, get those medals, and you'll be good to go on these guys. But the main thing is, like I said, you want to make sure you are focusing on leveling up their super attack and link leveling them. And again, don't worry if you do not have these guys. Once again, they are featured on the movie bosses red zone tickets. They are featured on the Gogeta banner as well, so if you did happen to be missing them, you can definitely get them that way. Moving on, during part 1, we will also be getting 2 sub-EZAs for the Paragus and Broly and the Bardock and Guine. So let's start with Paragus and Broly. So upon Extreme Z Awakening, they become defense stackers. They cause freeze damage to the enemy and lower attack. They have attack and defense 150% with a high chance of launching an additional attack when performing a super attack. They reduce damage received by 26% with each super attack performed within the same turn. So basically, the more supers they do, the more damage reduction they have, i.e. the more protection. They give Pure Saiyans or Join Forces allies key 3 and attack and defense 50%. They also have key 3 and attack and defense 180% with a high chance of launching another additional super attack when there's a pure Saiyans or superheroes category enemy. So basically, they are additional support for Broly's team. I wouldn't recommend. They're not really a good fit for Rosé's variant of super bosses, but they do work very well on Broly's, since they of course want those pure Saiyan / joint forces allies around, since that's who they are supporting. Now they are a defense stacker, so you may want to keep them on for a couple of turns when using them, but otherwise they do provide some great support for Broly's variant of the super bosses team. Now, because these guys are sub EZA, that means they will EZA from an event that is currently already out. So Paragus does not have a grindable super attack. There's no super attack you can grind out for him, but he does. Broly and Paragus do awaken from the Fizz Broly Dokkan event. So if you wanted to hop on over there, right, we can just look over here real quick, right? You just hop on over to that event and grab 35 medals and you can awaken them if you didn't already have him ready to go. You will have to use Kai's, however, to level up his super attack. Now, they do EZA from the AGL Broly EZA event, which is currently available. It is always available, never goes away. So you can go ahead and grind out all of your medals for that right now if you wanted to. It'll cost you about 5 to 10 stamina depending on the stage you're working on. Now understand that because it's in sub EZA, the medals you need are quite different, right? You will need 12 medals for the bronze medals, right? 2 for step 1, 4 for step 2, 6 for step 3, and then 20 silver medals, 12 gold medals, and then 12 rainbow medals, right? So best stages here to level this out is with stage 10, stage 15, stage 20, and then stage 30 will get you all of these medals that you need. So easiest way to go about doing that for the Paragus and Broly. And again, focus on getting those link levels up. Like I said, they aren't the greatest unit ever, but they are a really good support unit, especially with them stacking defense on Broly's super bosses team. Up next, we have the Bardock and Gine. Upon Extreme Z Awakening, their super attack will massively raise attack for the turn, causing supreme damage to the enemy, and raise allies attack defense 22% for 2 turns. And I love that, right? Because they have that AGL pan effect where their support buff is for 2 turns on the SA effect. The buff actually ends up being a lot more than it would be if it were a simple passive buff lasting for the turn or even for 2 turns, right? Because this, the way the calculation works is basically since it's through the SA effect, it applies to their SA effect rather than their base stat total, meaning that the overall effect is greater on the next set of allies that will receive the buff from them. Now on their passive, they are getting attack and defense 122%. They have additional key 4, an additional attack and defense 122%, and recover 22% HP if HP is 50% or less from the start of turn once only, when there's an ally whose name includes Goku on the team. They have an additional attack and defense 122% when attacking when there's another bond of parent-child ally attacking in the same turn. They have an additional 122% when there's a movie boss's enemy, and an additional key 4 122% and performs critical hit when facing an enemy whose name includes Frieza. So now the thing is, to get their max passive, right, you would have to basically be facing Golden Frieza in the Legendary Frieza event, or the Frieza from the movie bosses too. Realistically, you're not going to be seeing this. More than likely, you'll be seeing him in other movie bosses fights, right? So movie bosses 2, movie bosses 1's fights, or the Memorial Battle events is basically where you're going to see this most often, right? They're not really a good thing to be run outside of movie bosses or Frieza enemies because, right, that massive drop in stats is pretty big. That's not to say that they are terrible. They will still work great as a support unit on Beast or Gogeta's team. It's just that, you know, given their loss in 244% by not facing those specific types of enemies does limit them a bit. Now that said, the additional support that they provide through their super attack and the damage reduction that they can get can kind of offset that and make them worth a run. So if you want to make sure you have these guys, of course, make sure you link level them on those stages I mentioned, 34.4, 34.8 over here on global, and make sure you grind out their super attack from the Dokkan, the now growth units, the growth unit missions for the Team Bardock. Since he's a base Bardock, you can grind him out from that event very easily, very quickly. He does awaken from the AGL Gogeta Dokkan event, so you want to make sure you're running that in order to grind this guy out. 35 medals being a banner unit. Now, he doesn't awaken from the event you would think, the Gogeta event. In fact, he awakens from the Masked Saiyan EZA event, which is currently available. It's always available. And of course, the same as the Paragus and Broly. You need 12 bronze medals, 20 silver medals, and 12 gold and 12 rainbow medals in order to EZA them. So you can go ahead and grind those medals out now and have them prepared, so when the time comes to EZA them during part 1 of the celebration, you can just go ahead and click that button and have them EZA'd. No grinding necessary, no need to waste time during the anniversary getting that stuff done. So you want to make sure you do that now. Moving on, we are into part 2 of the celebration. Part 2 will bring the EZA for the Blue Kaioken Goku and Super Saiyan God Evolution Vegeta. These guys are phenomenal. One of the best units to EZA during the celebration. And they really help fill out that superheroes team for high damage numbers. So let's talk about a little bit what they're doing. They become an all-out struggle join forces, category key 3 HP attack defense 170 for both of those categories, so pretty good. On their 12 key, they are now greatly raising attack for the turn and defense and causing colossal damage while lowering attack and defense. On their 18 key, they massively raise attack and defense for the turn, causing colossal damage and greatly lowering attack and defense. Just so you know, that makes them excellent for the Kid Buu fight. The greatly lowering attack and defense is huge, especially with the multiple amount of supers they do. Now they have key 4, attack and defense 170%. They randomly change key spheres to a certain type to rainbow key spheres, and when there's another superhero ally on the team, plus an additional key 2 per rainbow key sphere obtained. They have an additional attack and defense 7% per key sphere obtained, and additional chance of performing a critical hit 7% and reduced damage received by 7%, and launches an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming a super attack per rainbow key sphere obtained, with up to 3 additional attacks per turn. They also have an additional attack and defense 70% when at 18 key or more, and performs a critical hit when key is 24, and have an additional 50% or less. They reduce damage by 70% once only. Now they do have an active skill that can be activated when 50% or less, which will also proc that additional damage reduction. And that active skill says the same thing it does before, gives them key 24 and attack 70% and defense minus 50% for the turn. So yes, there is a huge trade-off for activating that active skill, the 50% loss in defense. However, the massive amount of attack that they're getting along with the rainbow key spheres means that whatever is in your way that turn is going out of that way very quickly, especially if you pick up multiple rainbow orbs, right? That's the thing with this unit. The biggest flaw to the unit prior was their lack of defense and they're needing orbs while not having any viable orb changers on their team. Well, they went ahead and fixed that problem by making them their own rainbow orb changers, which will help them get those attacks that you need in order to make sure that they have their full passive up. And when it is up and they are going, they are crazy. They are doing insane amounts of damage on the superheroes team. Really good. I do like that they, while yes, they are limited to superheroes to gain that extra part of their passive, they're not limited to something like, say, Reps of Universe 7, which, I mean, they do want to be on that team, but that team is highly restricted as it is. Having a unit that can kind of float in and out variations of that team probably is the best thing for them, and they are good for that. Now, of course, being a new LR EZA, that means you cannot do anything about their medals until the time comes, and them being a dual card of Blue Kaioken and Blue Evolution means that they do not have a grindable super attack. So unfortunate, but that is the part 2 EZA. Now, of course, those aren't the big EZAs that we are worried about, right? The big EZAs we are worried about are the Part 3 EZAs, the Blue Evolution Vegeta and the AGL UI Goku, the 6th year LR EZAs. Everybody knew these were coming, and we have been waiting oh so long for them because they are some of the best EZA units in the game, and not just EZA units. Right? Blue Evolution stands atop in among the top 3 in Dokkan right now, right? He's just that good. But let's talk about what these guys are doing. So AGL UI becomes a flat 180 and key 3 to Miraculous Awakening in Reps of Universe 7. His 12 key greatly raises attack for the turn while causing colossal damage with a high chance of forming a critical hit, and raises allies' critical hit by 7% for the turn. His 18 key massively raises attack for the turn. It causes mega colossal damage to the enemy, high chance of forming a critical hit for 1 turn, raises allies' chance of forming a critical hit for 2 turns. I cannot tell you how beneficial that super attack effect is. Raising those allies' critical hit is huge. It allows you to focus on other builds knowing that you're going to be running these guys around, right? Because then you can focus on, say, additionals, knowing that they're going to be on a team with units like this, like Beast, who give them critical hit. On his passive now, he's got key 7 and evades enemies attack for 1 turn upon entering, once only, right? So he's got guaranteed evasion for his first appearance. He has attack defense 100% and plus an additional 77% when HP is 77% or more. He has a chance of launching an additional super attack with a chance of evading enemies attack 77% plus an additional chance of evading enemies attack 7% within the same turn for every attack evaded, right? So starting at 77%, every attack that he evades, he gets an additional 70% chance to dodge the next one. He has an additional key 2 up to 10 and defense 30% up to 150 for every attack evaded, plus an additional 77%, and performs a critical hit when activating the active skill or when key is 24. They have HP. When his HP is 77% or less at the start of the character's attack turn, he revives with 77% HP recovered when the character or ally in the same turn is KO'd. He gives key 7 and attack and defense 77% starting from the turn in which he or an ally's revival skill is activated, plus evades enemies' attack, including super attack, within the character's next attacking turn. After the revival skill is active, his active skill will greatly raise his attack temporarily, and of course it can be activated 50% or more starting from the 4th turn, same as it was before. So, dude, he's basically like the others, doing what they did before, but dialed up to 11. But now he has a few guarantees, right? Turn 1, he has a guaranteed additional, or a guaranteed dodge. When he is revived, he has guaranteed dodge. For the most part, he will be dodging, right? Because even after those, he's got 77% plus extra 7% with every attack evaded, meaning he can get to a point where he's basically auto dodging, which is really, really good for him. It basically means you can focus on dealing damage with him and not have to worry. He might get caught once or twice, you know, RNG is RNG, but for the most part, he will be doing what he needs to do. And if you manage to get lucky enough to fully build him up before he has to take a hit, right, fully built up, he won't be taking too much damage anyways. He might get hit with a stray super, but for the most part, almost every normal in the game, he is near invincible too, even if he doesn't dodge. So Really, really good there. Being that he is a Dokkan Fest LR, there of course is no way you can grind anything out for him at the current time. Of course, his super attack effect, since he is a super attack grinding, since he is a UI Goku, you can grab the UI Gokus from the shop when the coin shop becomes available during the anniversary and trade your anniversary coins for a couple copies of a UI Goku that you can feed into this guy. And again, we do go over this in our video on the level, on the super attack levels for all of the banner characters for each banner. So make sure you check that out. We will link both prep guides in the description. And then finally, the last EZA of the celebration, the Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta. Upon EZA, he is powerful comeback or reps of Universe 7, key 3 HP attack defense 180%. His 12 key now greatly raises defense for the turn and causes colossal damage to the enemy with a high chance of performing a critical hit for the turn, and raises allies' chance of performing a critical hit 7%. On his 18 key, he greatly raises attack and defense for the turn, causes make a colossal damage with a high chance of performing a critical hit for 1 turn, and raises all allies' chance of performing a critical hit 7% for 2 turns. Same as the AGL UI effects. So really, really good there. So again, having both of those raising everybody's critical hit chance means a lot for the team. Beast doing the same thing if you're getting his units super. Now on his passive, he has key 7 and guards all attacks for 1 turn upon entry, and has attack defense 200% and reduces damage received by 50%, plus an additional damage reduction of 10% within the same turn for each attack received or evaded up to 30%. He has key 3 up to 10 and attack defense 30% up to 120 with each attack performed. He launches an additional attack that has a 77% chance of becoming a super attack, plus an additional 77%, and performs a critical hit when activating the active skill or key is 24. At the start of the character's attack turn, after he receives 5 or more attacks in battle, he revives with 77% HP recovered. When the character or ally in the same turn is KO'd, he gets key 7 and attack defense 77%. Starting from the turn in which the character or ally's revival skill is activated, he will guard all attacks for the next attacking turn after that revival skill. He does have an active skill that can be activated like the UI Goku, 50% or more starting from the 4th turn, which just simply causes mega colossal damage. This guy is unkillable. That is the thing about this guy, because of the additional attacks that he's doing and the damage reduction that he's getting. It basically means that this dude is untouchable. He can get hit with a stray early on, but if he manages to get built up before it matters, then he becomes untouchable, especially if you end up proccing his revive. Post-revive, the dude doesn't take any damage from anything, so he is one of those characters you want to prioritize their revive over someone else, in my opinion. So, like the rest being a Dokkan Fest LR, he does not have a farmable super attack because he is a Blue Evolution Vegeta, and also his EZA is not out yet, so you cannot grind his medals now. So the main thing we wanted to focus on this video was all of the EZAs coming during the 9th anniversary, and focus on explaining, you know, kind of what you want to do to get them ready. You need to grind out those medals on each of those. If you're confused on any of those, be sure to check the links in the description for parts 1 and parts 2 on the banner unit prep guides, and you can figure out what events you got to run for each of these characters. But the main focus was, you know, looking at the characters, who is it you need to link level grind and get them ready for the anniversary, as well as who you may need to pick up medals for, the sub EZA medals. So guys, that is it for the video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let us know, what EZA are you looking forward to the most? Me personally, Blue Evolution Vegeta's EZA, but I'm curious to hear what you guys are most excited for in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.